Now I'm sitting down. It was 8 and 1,600 game. Big game for me. I didn't play that high. Got a couple 100,000. Got some drinks in me. John Hennigan, maybe the best stud 8 player in the world, and Phil Hellmuth in the game. Played all night, and it was a blast because Phil Hellmuth was throwing chairs. He was just losing it.
Hello,
Hello, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Poker Central Podcast, episode 174.
174.
You can just do the intro if you want, if that makes you feel better.
We have to get off of that intro. I mean, look how uninterested Daniel is right now.
I'm looking at the money list from 1998, right?
I mean,
Johnny Chan, all-time money leader, $2.3 million.
Wow.
Which people win every other day now. And
Daniel Dvorak won $4 million.
This was the first year, 1998, that I made it to the World Series. Look at these pretty brochures they had back in the day. You know, all the winners and stuff. Man, they did it right back then. I'll tell you what.
This is incredible. We've done more than 20 shows in this little studio with these amazing magazines laying out in front. No one has really commented on. No one's really said anything. But we have 1992.
Poker Magazine. Oh my God! I'm like a kid in a candy store. This is so cool.
This is 96 Poker Magazine.
93. I got to be in one of these.
What is in this? Oh wait,
these are so old. I don't think you're in these.
Poker Player.
This is 1987.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that was before my time.
Let me see if you've heard of these names. All right, here is Women in Poker, the 10K Championship event. Phyllis Kessler.
Alan's mom!
That is Alan. That is Aunt Phyllis. Becky Vincent. She's kind of hot.
She's blonde, right?
Yeah, she's kind of hot. Right here.
No, I never
Looks
did.
like Madonna. Susie Isaacs.
Of course, yeah.
You guys have history?
Played with Susie a bunch back in the day.
I bet you did. Marcia Wagner.
Of course, she's still around.
Yeah, she's still around.
Young Yu. That's a satellite winner, maybe.
No, I don't know Young Yu.
Okay. How about Wendine Eulis?
Oh, Wendy Neolis? Yes, I know her.
Yep. Nili Premraj.
These names are great.
Nili Premraj.
No doubt I said that.
I do not know
right.
her. No.
All right, put it down.
Well, hold on. Last one. I saved her for last. Teresa McMillan.
Married
husband
her.
Ron.
Oh,
McMillan.
Ron's wife. Yeah, of course.
Ron's wife.
Yeah. McDonald's. Ronald McDonald.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is one thing I wanted to show you as well. This is the 87 edition after Johnny Chan won the main event. How cool is that?
Beautiful.
That is so sick.
God, I love the nostalgia. I tweeted it out recently, but I love the idea of being back in the 70s and early 80s and playing with these guys and smelling all the smoke that I'd love.
Oh,
but
yeah,
you know that's different. If you grew up in the 70s, you probably wouldn't be bothered by smoke.
No.
I want to get a look at Phyllis. That's Alan Kessler's mother. Right there. Yeah.
All right, anyway, let's get to the show. We have a bunch of news topics to cover here because so much has happened over the last couple of days. Sure. Daniel, of course, joining us on the show. We have GGPoker to talk about. He's already repping the brand right there. But we announced this week that the Australian Poker Open and Super High Roller Bowl Australia are coming to PokerGO and to the Gold Coast in Australia, just south of Brisbane. Beautiful location there. We have so much to discuss about this series, Brent, because this is the first time we are touching down in Australia for a 7-event series followed by Super High Roller Bowl Australia. First of all, this thing has been a long time in the making, and I think very deservingly so, also to cater towards the players in the Australia, Pacific, Asia region.
It's exciting. You know, I've sort of had to bite my lip on this for a little while now. I wanted to get it out because players need a schedule, especially if you're going to Aussie Millions, which it sounds like you may or may not be going, Daniel.
Well, I'm considering, but I'll tell you what. I prefer Sydney over Melbourne. Not
Melbourne.
Bun. It's not Melbourne. I know all the people in Melbourne say Melbourne. They're just wrong. I'm looking at a possibility of doing both legs. We're gonna confer with the wife. We've had some great times in Sydney back in the day. When I shot X-Men Wolverine, the little snippet I did there when that Oscar-winning role that I had for 2 seconds, that was in Sydney. I was there for like 2 weeks.
Which you can find now on Disney Plus, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm a subscriber.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it looks like a really great series and a great spot. Everyone loves going down there, especially in January, February. You're talking about that's summer there.
Oh, beautiful. It's right on the beach as well for people who are watching and not familiar with this locale.
God, I want to go.
You can first go to
Melbourne.
I'm afraid now that he's going to correct me, but to Melbourne to play the.
Why is Melbourne?
Because that's how the Aussies say it, and I want to
say it wrong.
I want to be friends with the Aussies.
How you going?
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna have to learn that one.
Good day, mate.
How you going? How you going, mate? It's how you going. Nobody says good day, mate.
What's that mean?
How you going,
like,
mate?
How you
How
doing?
you going? It's like, how you doing?
How you
What's
doing?
going on? How you doing? They go, how you going, mate?
They have the wrong letter.
Fair dinkum, and they use the C word a lot. Also, so at Crown, you can play the Aussie Millions, and then you can hop straight onto a flight to Brisbane or Gold Coast and play the Australian Poker Open, which starts with a 10K no limit, then 10K PLO, 10K no limit, and then we up the ante with a 25K PLO and a 25K no limit, then a 50K no limit and a 100K no limit. These are all, of course, Australian dollars as well, and then a 250K super high rollerable Australia. We just did an article for Poker Central as well on the best Australian poker players of all time, which includes a list of some of the young kids in Australia that might be playing in those events. Adrian Attenborough is one of the guys on that list. Sam Higgs, a few more guys like Michael Egan, some players that you guys might not be too familiar with. But
I remember Crocodile Bill,
Billy,
Mel Judah.
Oh yeah, Mel Judah.
There was a Crocodile Bill?
You don't know Crocodile Bill Argos?
I'm looking.
Billy Argos.
Boy,
that's
you
my
wore a
favorite
crocodile outfit.
That's my favorite name so far.
Back around for
Billy the Croc. Just Google Billy the Croc.
Yeah,
he's tremendous. But yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome series. Daniel, you said you may or may not be going. Are you thinking about it?
I would say 2 weeks ago I was at about 14%.
Okay.
And I would up that to about 38% right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's about over doubled. Just because I'm looking at the schedule and figuring out there's also other events behind that. But I can't do like in the old days, month to month going on the road. 2-3 weeks tops is all I got in me.
Right. Well, I mean, hopefully we get to see you there. Brent might be leaving the country for the very first time.
If I left the country, it would be for Australia. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, but they all speak mostly English.
I feel like they're my kind of people.
They are.
Yeah, maybe.
A lot of,
they like beer.
Drink
the
of Foster's.
They like beer.
Beer, sort of wild stuff in nature, from the woods.
Different vernacular is totally accepted there. As
Very
you said,
strange.
the word cucumber, you can say that as much as you want there. It's considered normal.
Exactly.
Wait, what is wrong with the word cucumber?
It's totally fine in Australia.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
Moving into the Party Poker Millions World Bahamas events. Those, of course, were streamed on PokerGo, and you catch those all on demand.
Just got it.
Brent, the final. This took so long to drop. The final table of this event, $1.3 million up top. Tremendous final table, I must say. Yeah. Adrian Mateos and Chris Huniken battling with Aaron van Blarkum, very Dutch name, by the way, three-handed for the title.
You would find some sort of Dutch reference.
Always find a way.
You always find a way. Yeah, how about that? The Conquistador takes down Big Hooney. And by the way, Chris Huniken, sort of a resemblance of the Michael Jordan flu game. He was sick as shit. Wasn't even going to play. In fact, he skipped the opening event, gave his money back to the investors because of how ill he was feeling.
I mean, I feel like he's always sick. He's always complaining about having a cough or being sick in some kind of way. He skipped most of the Poker Masters from being sick. Then he played the 100K and won. Then he skipped Super Roll Bowl Bahamas, and then he almost won the party main event. So maybe
they're like a week apart.
Maybe being
sick
is like his sort of secret ingredient to cough on people.
Well, I don't care what he is. Tremendous accomplishment. He's really goddamn good. Have you
I
played
got 2
with
cents
Big
on
Hooney?
Yeah, but I got 2 cents on Adrian Mateos.
Oh yeah.
Of all the super high roller bowl guys, the Bryn Kennys and everybody like that, if you want to bet on one of them to win an actual main event, Adrian's your guy. Because he actually tries really hard, shows up on time and grinds it. Bryn Kenny will mock himself for being like, I'm the worst in these things. He doesn't have, the patience for these small little 10K buy-ins. But Adrian Mateos is a horse that, he goes hard in every event that he plays.
I also love how excited he is. When he wins, he wears his emotion. He celebrates, sort of the fist pump. You don't see that in a lot of the high rollers after you
We
win
have
a
a
big
game,
title.
me and Amanda play. Yeah. Sometimes we'll roll PokerGo footage, right? And I'll it's the end, the last hand, I cover who's won the hand. And then at the end, they shake hands or whatever and be like, who won? You can't tell because they're like, let's be too cool for school. I can't show emotion. That's nerdy. I hate that. You win a tournament, like part of what made poker cool back in the day was somebody won a WPT or something and everyone went nuts,
Kiss their biceps.
And now it's just like, I just won 3 million. It's cool. Well, my range was better than his range and I outranged him. So, my range is better and that's why I won. Cool.
Don't
awesome,
you think it's also partly because these guys are so deep in their thoughts for hours and hours on end that once it's finally over, it's more of like a sense of relief than actual excitement because
I think so,
how deep they are.
And to their credit, and you have to, say, first of all, you don't get anything extra for being cool and fun, and they're there to work. And part of what a lot of these guys try to do is try to get so in tune with being zen, like not too high, not too low, and try to keep it cool. So that's, that plays into it. I get it. I understand it. I just prefer watching, the guys that wear their heart on the sleeves, like a Phil Hellmuth or a Mike Matusow, who you win and lose with them, and you see and feel the pain.
Now, I will counter that by saying that it wasn't always celebrated the same way. Take a guy like Ivy. He never had any sort of emotion, which also is what made him cool, because he had such a killer look and instinct and feel. When he was pissed off, he might look at the dealer or look at his opponent in a weird way, but he never said anything.
There was a mystique about him, though.
Yeah.
There's a way in which he played. There's just an intensity into which he was, at the table, and he had a presence on his own. And just the way he carries himself. He doesn't do a lot of interviews outside of that, so he's the mystery man. And the fact that he was, like, for a very long time, the absolute best. And he's back on top again. Like, he's really, turning the corner and, getting his feet wet again in some of these tournaments. Probably not in the U.S. anytime soon, but, across the world. You saw him on a plane recently with Tony G and Durr and Paul Fua.
Durr was the other one I was going to mention. He had the look and the glare.
Right.
But he was never overly excited.
But he was never a tournament player.
Animated.
He was never a tournament player either.
But Durr, it was his style of play.
It was crazy.
He came on the scene, and he's like, this guy's insane. He just plays every pot, just re-raise bluffs on boards, getting people off trips, and all this craziness that he did. So that's what was exciting for him. For Phil, it was, the winning. I do think, and, listen, we're just going to be honest here, Tiger Woods in golf, part of his mystique, aside from him being the best and having a cool name, was that he was black. Phil Ivey, having also a cool name, being the best at what he did and being black, I think there was a lot of comparisons there. Fair or not, that's just the truth of it. I think him being like and also, in our culture, we think of hip hop, we think of, that sort of culture as being cool, more so than,
He just had it all,
white
man.
guys.
He had the look, the stare.
I
remember the what the hell was the Houston Rockets jersey? Steve Francis jersey.
Francis,
he wore.
yeah.
I loved Ivy. I fell in love with Ivy in that moment.
There's one funny thing I want to talk about Ivy, which goes to show that Ivy is so on top of everything with regards to what's going on around him, but he'll never really show it because it's part of sort of his persona and how sort of cool he is. I once got to interview him after he won a bracelet, and this was right after I'd done a series of videos talking to other people about Phil Ivey, and I called these videos Ivy Stories. And of course, this was because Ivy did not want to talk to me. So I asked other people about Phil Ivey in these videos. So then I get to do this winter interview with Phil Ivey, and the first thing he says, he leans into me and he goes, I've seen those Ivy Story videos, and not all those stories are true, man. So he had watched the videos about himself, even though he did not want to talk to me about those stories, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. But it goes to show that, he knows what's going on. He's totally on top of everything.
I doubt
Not
it.
really.
Yeah,
No.
I actually don't believe your story.
It's on tape.
No.
It's on tape.
That's a random thing because typically he doesn't know. I remember him sitting 6 months after Jonathan Duhamel won the main event of the World Series, and Phil's like, "Hi, what's your name?" To Jonathan Duhamel, who didn't realize. He's like, "Oh, you won? Hey, congrats!" I'm like, Phil, that was almost a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah, he doesn't pay attention, but now that he's back in the scene a little bit, it's important for him to know his opponents, and he's been grinding and working hard on. He's done really well in a lot of these short deck tournaments. He seems to have a real good knack for that as well.
Yeah, we have an article up with Tony G this week, where he talks about playing with Phil and Tom on the jet, and also in Vilnius, where they went to the casino with Paul Fua. So you got to go check that out. Final note here on the Party Poker events. Adrian Mateos won not only the main event, but also the 25K high roller for $500,000. So two wins in 10 days. No big deal. Dwarez did the same thing. He won the bowl, and then he won a short deck event. But yeah, tons of money.
I love the Conquistador.
Yeah, he needed a couple because he'd have been, if you look, listen, if you're playing these high rollers and you don't keep hearing guys coming first, second, or third, they're getting buried.
Yeah,
he's getting a big downswing.
No doubt about it.
For sure.
Good turnaround for him.
Absolutely. Daniel, you have taken a bit of time off after a grind of giant proportions, not only through the summer but also in Rozvadov. And then the news came out basically right after you had started celebrating. You were popping champagne on the plane. That it wasn't your win. It was actually the win of Robert Campbell in the World Series Poker Player of the Year. You were, from the moment that I spoke to you about that news coming out, positively spirited, even though I expected you to be quite devastated. Why that kind of emotion?
Well, first and foremost, right? Like, I set out to achieve a goal, personal goal. This is fun for me. I play video games sometimes, whatever, for personal reasons. There's no money on the line, just like there is with Player of the Year. So I went there thinking, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to leave there with the most points possible. I did that. I celebrated that. I came home to my wife who had balloons. It said POI, the whole deal. And so I accomplished what I set out to do. Days later, we found out that there was a clerical error, and they gave me the wrong amount of points from a thing. Didn't change that fact. Terrence Chan on our pod, he likes to call me the former 3-time World Series of Poker Player of the Year, because I was for a very short period of time. But also, there's a couple other reasons too, and I was surprised by my reaction, because if I was 24 or 25 and I had that happen, I would have lost it.
It was your first one, probably.
Yeah, I would have. I would have probably went nuts. You guys did this, but like I've learned with age and wisdom to take the responsible approach of things. The victim version is, you guys screwed me. Had I known, I would have played differently. I wouldn't have folded those queens. I would have got more points. And that's all relatively fine and true. But here's the thing, and I said this in my blog. If this is something I truly cared about, as much as I did, then it's on me for not double checking. I just trusted that the site was right, as did everyone else, and I had no reason to doubt them. But if had any of us known, like had Sean Deeb known, had he checked, right? So that's another example. Like, he didn't take personal responsibility, because like he could have double checked. He didn't. Like,
right.
And he would have, had he double checked, he would have only needed a 9th versus the 11th that he got.
Whatever happened with? Did Deeb continue with the narrative of pointing a finger and saying, "Oh yeah, you knew all the way"?
He dropped it from.
He quit that.
Well, he went from it being flat out saying it's true to 30 to 70%. His reasoning is that he thought, well, you know how many times you cashed, and I don't. When you cash 15, 16, 17 times, you're cashing on an online tournament, you're cashing one of these, you're cashing all over the place. Number of cashes has no relevance to me. Like, who cares?
It's the points.
Right? It's the points that matter. It's the the packages that matter. So no one on my team was tracking the number of cashes. We had a spreadsheet available to everyone to see all my results throughout the entire series. You can just count them yourself. I looked at the thing and said I had 16 or 17 cashes. I'm like, oh, that's how many cashes I have. I didn't, from day to day, you can easily get lost in that and forget. Apparently he knows. And the truth is, even if I did know exactly how many cashes I had, that's not really relevant to the fact that, like, I had no idea that there was any point error, because it happened weeks later where the adjustment was made.
Right.
And I wasn't even in the race till event 83 when I came second in the 100K. So I had absolutely no. There's evidence. I posted screenshots in my vlog that show all my results, including the error. You'd think if I knew, I'd say, like, hey, you want to, take that down? Like that. There's also in my vlog evidence of me saying, oh, somebody tweeted at me that my points are wrong. I'll look into that. That should tell you that I wasn't following it daily. Like, I didn't know what the tracking was if some random fan had to point this out to me. So there's, like, this much evidence that I didn't know. The only evidence they have that I knew is like, whoa, he cares about this stuff. That's it. And it's very irresponsible to make an accusation like that.
It's fucked up.
It is. And it's like, it's not surprising when those two, Sean Deeb and Doug Polk, jump on that train, because this is what they do. For Doug, it's a business model. This is like literally his MO. Attack people, pull people down so that he can get more clicks on his site. Sean is just, Sean.
Sean's also just very disappointed, probably, because he only needed, one more pay jump?
It is crazy, though. The World Series of Poker is the one that made the mistake here.
Right.
But somehow they found a way to blame me.
Well, everyone's mad at each other except for at the World Series of Poker.
I get Sean likely is the one that should be furious, and I guess that's sort of to your point. Had it happened to you when you were younger, you'd have been more upset. Sean's still, I guess, my age, mid-30s, low 30s, whatever we are. I can understand him being frustrated. He really wanted it too. He went out there.
Sure.
He wanted that title.
No question about it. And there's no question it's true that it affected him. But it's impossible to say that it affected him. But it didn't affect myself and Robert as well.
It did.
I actually specifically played heads differently after I had a final table. I'm like, okay, I'm in the lead.
Right.
If I cash in this short deck right here, I get an extra 90 points, and that puts me in top. So I need to do that. So I folded 2 queens on the bubble to just one raise. Just mucked them. Jacks and queens back to back. I folded. And short deck's a different game, so that's not as good of a hand as you would think. But still, they're both jams. And
most
I chose not
situations
to.
you're going with it.
And there were several things. The Colossus as well. Like, I specifically targeted hitting a spot to to play along with the rules of the game that I thought were accurate, and they just weren't.
The crazy part to me is the fact that the timing of this coming out is so funny. Like, this came out right after it was concluded. But what if the banner's already hanging inside the Rio, and then all of a sudden they come with this news? Because obviously, you have to change this if it's wrong, and it was wrong. And Robert Campbell is now World Series Poker Player of the Year, and he was, very.
Part of me too. I think. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Another reason where, like, part of me didn't feel so deflated, because I felt so stupid out there in Rosvedov doing this dumb crap, like dropping a stack, like all this kind of stuff. It's so silly that that's what it takes to win Player of the Year.
Right.
And I felt a guy like Robert, he's rarely going to be in contention because he doesn't play a 70 or 80 game, 80 tournament schedule. This guy won 2 bracelets, had 13, 14 cashes. Like, he kind of deserved it, in my mind, because volume shouldn't be the answer. I know, like, if you ask Sean Deeb, he's like, well, volume should be, how you judge it. No. Volume obviously gives you an advantage, but you got to start limiting the number of cashes that count to make it actually somewhat relevant. Because the idea that down the stretch, People are just dropping stacks, going all in blind to try to double up to get 80, 90 points. That's dumb poker. Why are we instead of that, why don't we set it up where people need to make final tables and wins to actually, up their score?
Right. Give me in 3 points or in 2 minutes how to fix World Series of Poker POI.
Okay, so first and foremost, the number one thing that needs to happen, absolutely needs, and I know that they're not fully on board, is we need to limit the number of caches that count for your total. You can come up with a number, whether it's 8, 10, 12, or even 15. Past that, just accumulating caches is useless to you. So that avoids the problem of like, well, listen, my 12th cache is already 50 points worth, so I don't need to go, jump in this thing and drop a stack and burn money in equity. Obviously, the secondary thing, World Poker Tour has Hublot, LAPC has $50,000 for a Player of the Year. There's no prize for this thing.
Yeah, even Poker Masters, Australian Poker Open, they all have a cash prize up top.
Right. For the World Series, like the premier brand in poker for many years, to not have anything, not even a trophy or a ring or something like that, that's kind of silly. I would also look to really lower the value of min caches in these big field events, because a lot of these re-entry tournaments, you can buy like 8, 9 bullets. What is cashing in that? That's not worthy of a big thing. So I would have a big discrepancy between a min cache and a 10K, which say, for example, you come 15th in the 10K limit hold'em. That shouldn't be worth the same as a min cache in Colossus.
Right.
Because one achievement is so much easier than the other. So this should be worth twice as much as this. I would also, having said that, in those big Colossus events, I'd up the points you get for wins and final tables, top 3, top 20, top 30 finishes. But the min caches, come on, man. You got to stop just giving free points to Chris Ferguson because he's willing to max late reg, and then when he's at the front of the line to late reg, he goes, you go ahead. You go ahead, and goes to the back of the line to give himself the best chance to catch. We shouldn't be rewarding this kind of stuff.
That happens?
Chris Ferguson was caught. Ask Lance Bradley and others, where if you max late reg and you're still in line, they let you in even after registration. So he'd get to the front of the line, see about 20, 30 people. He's like, well, I'll go to the back of the line. It gives me an extra 10, 15 minutes of play where my stack's alive, so I'm that much closer to the money.
Oh, my God.
It's so disgusting.
I didn't know that was even a thing.
That is so disgusting.
Like when he won Player of the Year a few years ago, I don't know that he won any money.
Right.
I don't. I think he may have actually ended up loser.
That's far worse. That's far worse than edge sorting, in my opinion. And
yeah, you're right. Edge sorting.
That is far worse than edge sorting. So Daniel, if the rules don't change, are you going to go hard in 2020? And if the rules do change, are you going to go hard in 2020? How are you looking at?
I don't know yet. So people have been asking me that right after Razvodov. Your answer is like, don't ask me about poker yet, What ends up happening, though, for me typically every year is I'm like, you know what, this year I'm not going to do it and whatever. Then May rolls around. And you start to get a little excited. And now it's like, you know what, let's go, baby.
Fantasy.
Let's do it. Right.
You can't help yourself.
Like I actually, years ago, people said to me, because I've been bitching and complaining about this structure, this system for a long time, even though, what the changes they made benefit me if I choose to do that. So people were saying, like, either, you stop your bitching, or you adjust and play the schedule that you're supposed to. So I took real offense to a lot of people, whether it's poker media or whatever, painting me out to be this guy that's doing something like outrageous. Like, oh, he just bought the Player of the Year. What do you think Sean Deeb's doing? Rebuying 20 times in a PLO. And Robert Campbell, dropping stacks. And myself, like everyone who is trying to play the Player of the Year is doing the same thing. So I just played along the rules. I never used to play Colossus and all these big field events. But I'm like, hey, these are free points. If I want to win this thing, I have to expand the schedule I play, and I have to re-enter when necessary.
You also gave all of the fans the opportunity to sort of come along for the ride. You could invest in that package, and that was very special.
That's another thing that annoyed the crap out of me, too. So the World Series of Poker, obviously, we did well. We had 3 packages during the summer. One of the packages you lost, like if you put up $100, you got back something like 85. So we lost a little bit. Both the other packages were very, very profitable.
Yeah.
Now, have the suggestion that the World Series of Poker Europe package wasn't profitable because I was going to rebuy in a $500 tournament when I'm playing 100Ks and 25Ks, like, give me a break. You really think at no markup because I'm going to rebuy, when we're willing, in the $500 that it turns it into like a bad buy? It's absurd. I was super close in Europe to making big money. 6th in the 25K, 8 game, 10th in the 10K, the 25K were, what's his name? Hossein Ensan destroyed me 3 hands in a row.
That was ridiculous.
Aces.
You were like second or third in chips, and then all of a sudden just...
I had some shots to make some big money. The only reason I ended up loser on the trip was because in the 100K, I got coolered on a King 9-7, 3-way all in against King 9 and 7-7.
Right.
So I had to rebuy in that one. But I didn't rebuy in any of the 25Ks, and I cashed like 7 or 8 times in Europe. So even though we lost money in Europe, I thought I did pretty good, and we were really, really close. You got to just put yourself in spots where you can hit those big scores. You don't always do.
As a player who loves the stats and the accomplishments and all sorts of things attached to tournament poker, what would you care the most about with regards to winning? Because I know, and I referenced this way too many times, the bracelet in Vegas has been a long time coming. The last one you won was in Australia. I believe it was 2008 when you last won your bracelet in Vegas. Is that at the top of your list of something that you would like to now do? Or are there other tournaments or series or wins that you have your eye on as far as accomplishments go?
Well, the World Series of Poker, like where I win them, I don't care, man.
Right.
I don't care if they're in Zimbabwe or whatever. If it's a World Series bracelet, I'm out to win it. I don't really pay attention to where. It is just really strange that the Rio I've had, really in my career the last 6 years or so, I've had a ridiculously bizarre string of second-place finishes. Like so outside the norm where I think I'm like, 1 in 15 or something ridiculous like that. Like I've just tied Phil Hellmuth's record for the most second-place finishes at the World Series of Poker. Now, if I would just go like, win one half of those, I'd have 11 bracelets right now, and I'm still stuck at 6. So I'd like to see that count go up. And again, depending on what they do with Player of the Year, because I genuinely think that like this is something they could care about, they should care about, they don't care about enough, and they create an environment that's really silly. We have a bunch of people chasing this award, burning equity, just throwing away money to have a banner up with like nothing added, nothing. I don't know. It seems like they could do more.
Maybe you should
when you get hot, and it's going to happen, you're going to get hot, you're going to win a few more bracelets. Does Phil Hellmuth need to watch out? Are you going to take down the all-time bracelet record?
That'd be a tough one because what am I, like 8 behind right now? I do feel like you're right. I'm going to have a year where I win 3. I just feel like that's a thing that's going to happen, but it's a long way away. For Phil, I was really impressed with Hellmuth. I swear. I hate to say it because we always like to needle the guy. But I genuinely believe that his mix game has improved so much that he's better. He's a bigger favorite in those than he is in No Limit Hold'em, especially at the higher stakes. Higher stakes No Limit Hold'em players will destroy him. Just being honest. Like, you can hate me all you want, but I know this, okay? I've played in these fields, and they have just a good read on him. He thinks they're all GT or whatever. They're picking up tells and all that stuff on him, and he has plenty. So his best chances are actually now in the fields that are the smallest, and the main thing he's changed is he's not as sloppy. Like I used to play stud 8 with him. There was a funny story back in Atlantic City. I just won the U.S. Poker Open, $210,000. So I've having some drinks.
Sponsored by Nike, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. So now I'm sitting down. It was 8 and 1600 game, big game for me. I didn't play that high. Got a couple $100,000. Got some drinks in me. John Hennigan, maybe the best stud 8 player in the world, and Phil Hellmuth in the game. Played all night. And it was a blast because Phil Hellmuth was throwing chairs. He was just losing it. Fuck this idiot. Da da da. And he just wasn't as good back then at those games. He didn't understand the games, the depth of what hands you shouldn't be playing. He's also worked with, and this is crazy to say, Mike Matusow, who he makes some deviations in tournaments in Omaha 8 that in a vacuum, guys like Ike Haxton, everyone would look at and go, this is really bad, right? Like he's folding hands in the big blind you shouldn't fold. But Mike does some other things that they neglect that keeps him in tournaments longer in Omaha 8 where he's not sloppy and not, spewing as much. And it's helped improve Phil's game too because they talk a little bit. Phil still makes mistakes in that game. They both do. But, from a tournament perspective, the mistakes they're making are on the cautious side, which is typically okay.
Right.
So my biggest takeaway is that for sure Daniel Negreanu is going to overtake the bracelet lead
for sure.
in the next decade.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
I mean, you got to win the 50K at least once.
It's happening. You're gonna get to 10 very soon.
I'm typically an emotionally stable guy when I play tournaments, but the 50K 8 game, I'm the furthest thing from. I remember a hand I played against Ike Haxton. Okay, and he saw me. He was playing with me a lot. Where every time a card comes up, I'm like, I want to rip the cards and smash or whatever like this. This Omaha 8 hand comes up where the board is king 5 4 4 8 or something or 10, right? He check raises me on the river, okay? I think for a minute, and I'm like, I have kings full here, but I have blockers or something like that, and I'm thinking he could have quad 4s or something. So I just call him. I call him after pausing. He's like, I knew I was dead when you didn't rip the cards and throw a tantrum. Because in limit poker, you know how it is. You're like, you're in the pot, then the card. I just lose it so much. And it's fun because I care about that event so much. And it's a blast. It's 5 days of grind, and limit's an unfair game. a lot of time, and and then even in the 8 game too, you're always stressed out playing a big PLO or no limit pot. You're like, I could lose my whole stack on this one. So it's just emotional roller coaster for me, that one.
I mean, now that you're back supporting an online brand, I'm sure the online poker roller coaster is going to be back in your life pretty soon as well. GGPoker is now the brand you're representing.
Hey.
Obviously, turning a page this year as it pertains to the online realm. What have the responses been like so far? Obviously, we put the article out there. You gave a quick comment, but I mean, this is now a few days in the making. There must have been a lot of responses to this.
Yeah, and I expected a wide range of them, and they've actually been way more positive than I would have expected because people just find stuff to complain about typically. But no, I'm super excited to be with GG because they're like the young up and comer, if you will. They've only been around a few years, and really they've grown similar to the way PokerStars originally did with Esai, which was a computer software background, right? These guys are all computers. They're software guys, right? So they're like, let's just make the best software. And they've done that. I genuinely believe their mobile client is better than anything else you'll find out there from a usability perspective and the like. So, then on top of that, they've come up with unique ways to give back 1 million in promotions a month. They've gone from guaranteeing in their first GG series a year ago, 3 million in guarantees. A year later, just 1 year later, it's 50. Now, comparable, 50 million PokerStars, which has been around a long time, their W Coup, 75 million. So obviously still bigger, but pretty big jump from 3 to 50. And I really like the group there. And the relationship really started because of World Series Europe. I was going to do the staking package thing, and it was such a train wreck in World Series the way we had it set up. They kind of reached out to us and said, we already do staking. It's pretty easy within our platform. We can set this up for you if you'd like, as a favor. So we're like, well, thanks. Yeah, great way to build a relationship. Then I met with, the team and stuff, and we started to, talk about, well, maybe we can collaborate here on helping to grow what you've already created because they're huge in the Asian market. If you want to play high-stakes poker online right now, they corner the market on PLO, all the big games, the biggest tournaments. There's a period where they're running a $25,000 buy-in event every hour.
There's like 10 a day
right?
that run, yeah.
Yeah, every hour. So you got a whole bunch of pro teams who are just going, well, we're gonna play in these and we're gonna make bank. So now my goal here is to expand on sort of the rest of their tournament, offerings and marketing. Because like I said, they're software guys, right? They know how to do that. They know how to do the promos. But getting the news out about this site is where I come in, and I've got a lot of experience doing that.
I have a question about GGPoker.
Your question is probably, can you borrow some money off Daniel because you've been losing a lot?
Number one, yes. Can I? Just 1,000. That's all I need. Number two, what does the G and the G stand for?
Well, it's funny because you guys are familiar with gaming and stuff like that, and that's what if you think about next level video gaming, and a lot of the way the site is set up is geared towards that. GG is a common term that people use when you win or lose, like GG. In poker, people say GG. It typically doesn't mean like, hey man, good game. It's like, GG, gotcha. You're done.
So that's
it. It's good game.
I like that.
Right.
Great.
GG, good game poker.
I love that. So obviously this is a newer site. They're not brand new, but they've been around for a while. But still, they're a newer site. They're trying to have these lofty goals, do these big things. Is it also sort of reigniting your passion in the sense that you were with PokerStars for so long, they were so established, and maybe in a way it must have felt like it doesn't really matter as much anymore. They've gotten so big, it sort of carries itself. Now that you might have a lot more impact again because this thing is a bit more grassroots at this point, does that motivate you as well?
Well, yeah, yes, everything you said, I was like nodding my head because absolutely. For 12 years I was with PokerStars and had a great run with them. But stagnancy does set in. You sort of go through the same routine of going to the same events and doing the same kind of stuff. So being able to help an upstart, which is already, it's not some small little site. They're already the third largest online operator in the world. To help them grow and also, be hand in hand with the team of guys who they're willing to do whatever it takes, really. Like, they'll try things. Sometimes those things doesn't work. That's okay. They'll switch it up. Like, I just was talking about it on Twitter. They're on their final tables. They switched from, like every 15 minutes blinds go up. They switched it to now it's number of hands. So you play round front and you get a chess clock. So they will determine based on the number of blinds and antes, like by the average stack, how much time you should have for the final table. So that's what you get. Plus whatever you kept over from your time bank leading up. So who does that punish? It punishes the guys who stall and tank because they're not going to have as much time when it matters at the final table. So they're willing to think outside the box, and they have people that create software that can do this stuff. For a lot of other companies, it's a difficult undertaking to sort of revamp that and come out with something. But we can come up with ideas really quickly, and they'll employ them. And their staking platform is like literally the thing that blew me away. Like, I don't know if you fiddled with it a little bit, but everybody's buying and selling pieces now in poker. You go into GG, you can play, you can post, let's say you want to play the $500 tournament, you want to sell half. You can sell half, but what you do is you agree to show your results so people can see your actual ROI and then what you're selling for. So they see, oh, well, he's selling for 1.2, his ROI is only 1.4, 1.14. He's, not a great deal. Conversely, you can buy. You don't even have to play. You can buy pieces from people who sell on there, which is great for Twitch. Right? Because you're watching a Twitch streamer, which is fun maybe for some people, but like, how much better is it? Like anything, you're gonna watch like
you a little piece,
you're gonna watch the Cincinnati Bengals playing, whoever. Like, unless you got money on it,
unless you bet
right?
it.
So here now, these GG streamers, they can sell little pieces of themselves to their fan base, and it gives you that rooting interest. So that's really where I tied in with them because I start to see the value of myself selling pieces and things like that as a way to get fan interaction and people watching and getting eyeballs on the game.
Can you do it in the 25K high rollers? Can any of those players sell
Sure.
their action right there?
You can
See,
sell.
that's interesting
That's cool.
to me.
Yeah.
They've got 50, 60 player fields where these guys, you might be able to buy a piece of.
And you can check results, you can check cold streaks, and again, they will show you on the screen the ROI of that player.
Yeah,
so
that's
that for all the markup police or whatever like that, you take a look, and be like, okay, well, look, my ROI is 1.13, I'm selling at 1.09.
There was also another feature that I was reading about when I was sort of diving deep, learning more about GG. When you final table an event, and you'll have to dive in here, I believe based on your chip stack, there's a sort of a redraw where you choose your own seat at the final table based on where you came in chips. Is that
I
right?
haven't made a final table yet because I haven't been able to leave the U.S. just yet to play on that. So I'm not too
I think
sure
that's
about
right.
that one.
Really?
Yeah, so if you're short stack, you're the first one to choose your seat all the way down to the last one to choose is the chip leader.
I think it's
So you choose the
fascinating.
position.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that while most sites are trying to change the game, like new rules to the game, they're trying to change sort of the dynamics of how it works, which is really fun and interesting. What I want to ask you about, which has always been a hot topic, the ability of a poker site to provide professionals to make a living, basically. And obviously this goes into the rake discussion. GG is definitely offering high rake. They're definitely not, the cheap ones out there. If you are a grinder, that might not be the easiest way to make money if you're, just above break even. How do you look at that?
So what they employ, and they're dedicated to this, and they really believe that from an ecosystem perspective and everything like this, what they do is they do high rake, high reward. Right? There's $1 million that goes back in promotions per month. Also, if you're a specific type of player, this is what I've always felt like the engine should work like. The players who are losing and depositing players or whatever, they're not the ones that should be paying the quote-unquote taxes. The players who win should cover that. And essentially what happens here is every player has what's called a PVI. Every site does this. They understand your value, your player value index, essentially. So if you're a player who bum hunts, who just only sits when a live one sits, and then, you quit immediately and all that stuff, your PVI will go down, right? To the point where if you continue to, do this, because we don't want that on the site. We don't want bum hunters and anything like that. But they will actually act, and they'll say, listen, you keep doing this, your PVI is going to go to 0. So how does that work for the player? Well, like you said, you're paying a high rake, but if you're getting the high rewards, you're okay. You take the rewards away, well, that makes it a much more difficult, road for you. But if you play within the rules and not within the rules, within the spirit of the game, if you will, give action, get action. Like a lot of these top pros start to get that. A lot of the ones that are playing in private games and stuff, they understand. Listen, this game has to be fun and engaging for the right people because it shouldn't. For years, the system has been broken. Okay, PokerStars set up a system many, many years ago that appeared to work because it's like, wow, we're getting a lot of people on our site. Great for liquidity, offering all this rake back to the multi-table grinders. But eventually, that system destroyed itself. Like it's no longer viable because what you need to focus on is making sure that this part of the engine is putting money in and contribute to them being able to play and continuously, and not the guys that are taking money out. They're going to make money anyway. The reward, if you're a professional player, is the ability to play in really good games. Again, some of them, like you said, in some cases the rake's a little bit lower. I think our short deck is lower. But in some like the PLO, it's much higher. Mm-hmm. But they have an algorithm and a system where what they do is whatever extra rakes being taken, it comes back into the system. Where the people with the higher player value index, those that typically lose, play in any game, all this kind of stuff, they get back a whole bunch in rewards.
Wow. I mean, that's a new system for online poker for sure, and I'm very excited to see how this is going to play out in the long run. And clearly is working now, because from what I've heard is that the high stakes games are running basically around the clock, which is really exciting, and obviously a big player base in Asia. So obviously, if you are in Europe and Asia and markets where they allow for you to play on GGPoker, I'm sure you'll be able to find good ways to play for high stakes. Daniel, on that note, we're going to let you go. This was a great podcast. Brent, thanks for being with me once again. We have a lot of exciting content coming up on PokerGO. We have a lot of high-stakes cash games coming up.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Poker After Dark returns December 3rd and 4th. Let me run through that lineup real quick.
Yes, please.
Just a little taste.
Yes.
All right, coming up. So day one, we've never done this before. It's going to be a $5,000 sit-and-go with one re-entry. So the first four levels, 20-minute levels, you can re-enter. Daniel, I know you love re-entries.
Hate it.
It is a sit-and-go. Wales versus Wizards Week. Kitty Kuo, Dominic Nietzsche, Jared Jaffe, Justin Young, Randall Emmett, Tom Schwartz, who's also from Vanderpup, Ali Amshurovich, only playing the sit-and-go. And then the cash game is a slightly different lineup. We lose Ali. We add Tim Sharif, who's the founder of 310 Nutrition.
Wow.
The rest of the lineup remains the same. So we're excited to bring that lineup and that little nuance to Poker After Dark next week.
And you are continuously in the basement working on some hot stuff for December. I'm not sure how much you can tease on that, but that's going to be big and it's going to be fun.
I believe, release a few names, which I've been permitted to do so.
Can you do that? Is that allowed?
I've been permitted to do so.
Okay.
Rob's home game coming to PokerGO December 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Wait, 4 days?
It is 4 days.
Jesus.
It's huge. They're playing $200,000 minimum buy-in, $500, $1,000 plus ante. The names that I have been permitted to release: Rob Young, Jean-Robert Belland, Big Al, that's Alfred DeCarlos, and Phil Hellmuth.
Wow.
Oh, my
So those
God,
are
I
our
need
four.
to cancel my plan.
Those are our four that are
What
in
in the
game
world?
right now, and apparently Daniel
How?
Negreanu is
Oh, my God.
unavailable.
I agreed to do something on the 9th to the 13th, just like that. I can't cancel, but oh my God.
Yeah.
Yum.
Tremendous action coming to PokerGO. This is going to be amazing.
That's the Rob Young way, though.
That is.
And he said, and I know this too, every single pro is reaching out saying, oh my God, I want to play in this game. How do I play in this game? And the reality is, that wouldn't make it his home game, if
Right.
you will. These are going to be folks that Rob typically plays with, what you're seeing on the internet, those huge pots, a guy like Sam Trickett, even Roble. Roble's going to be limited to how many days he can play, if any. Maybe he'll get one. Trickett might get 1 or 2 days in this game. All the top pros, going to be pretty hard to find a seat.
All right, so this information exclusively here on the podcast, so stay tuned for much more of that. If you are listening to the show, please know that this show is available on PokerGO every Friday morning. And if you are watching the show, know that if you are on the move, on the go, or just walking the dog, you can listen to this as well on your favorite podcasting app. For Daniel Negreanu and Brent Hanks, my name is Remko. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week.